Hello. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with this this program. I'm going to jack up the vocals. I'm going to speed it up, and when you watch it, I want you to push the captions. No matter how fast I speed it, the machine will give you what I'm saying. I want you to read what I'm saying. Never mind what I said. My mouth. You know, my
Forget
mouth.
that.
Read the words. Okay. Now I suppose, because you're on this platform, and whatever it is, that we should, in this climate, first thing is I address what you want to address the trans issue, right? You want to say some shit because I'm in a dress. You try to delegitimize my transition. Okay? Let's do that first and get it over with, because it's fucking boring. Guess what? You look up every town in the United States, every city, and every city has an army of drag queen performers, which is the biggest thing going. It's making the most money, and the bars are getting very rich off of the drag queen performers, you see? So this issue, they try to jack it up, you know, like this, yeah, it's bullshit. People don't have the time to be mean little shits like they do in front of their computer because they learned it as a kid. Is that it? Where they learn this? My daughter learned it on the computer, a little gang war. She's starting a little gang wars. I suppose all your children did that. Okay. If the caption does not pick up what I said, you know, just use your imagination. I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. I really don't care. I don't have enough equipment like everybody, you know. Everybody that make a podcast because they're rich. I got to get the microphone this big with a crane attached to it, and that's going to be my talent. You know? Don't tell me it's not like that. It's like that. Okay. So we're talking about today. It's always going to be the subject is news crime. Now, a news crime. I give you a news crime. All right. We had the BP disaster in the Gulf of Mexico, right? And it wiped out the western coast of Florida, the resorts, and there were a lot of little moguls trying to set up, you know, resorts there. And they got an oil bath, you know. But at the same time, or just prior to the BP disaster, was another disaster that happened in the Sea of Timor. It was somewhere over there, north of Australia. It's called the Montoya oil rig disaster. Okay, the Montoya oil rig disaster was panned in the news. It wasn't in the Sydney newspapers. You couldn't find it. In the New York Times, it was there one day. It spilled enough oil. I know the facts. I'm not going to show you little boxes. It spilled enough oil to cover an area 1/5 the size of Lake Erie. That's how big it was. And it wiped out the seaweed farmers in Indonesia. Little people growing seaweed in the beautiful tropical sea. That's where the glory of the seas comes from. That's the most valuable seashell in the world. The Montoya disaster, you know, killed like a lot of them. The most valuable seashell in the world, poor little seashell. It's a cone shell, it's about this big. The glory of the seas. The Montoya disaster was settled for less than legal settlement for less than $1 million. I'm going to say that again. The Montoya oil rig disaster was settled for less than $1 million in damages. Their book, written about the BP disaster, covers the Montoya disaster. One sentence. I know what it says. It says something like this. Previous to the Montoya disaster, there was, previous to the BP disaster, there was the Exxon disaster in British Columbia, and there was the Montoya disaster. Anyway, it gives it He gives it one sentence. Okay, that is a news crime. See? So we witnessed today the Palestinians could be saved by the news. The blood is on nobody else's hands. It's a news crime. Despite the fact that journalists are being killed. And, the smug United States hierarchy, if you ask them, hey, how come we don't have high-speed rail? I know what they'd say. Do you know what they'd say? I know what they'd say. I'm going to tell you what they'd say. They'd say this. Well, the United States didn't suffer a World War attack, and all the countries that have high-speed rail suffered an attack, and that's why. This is the shit logic that is real. This stuff like that is R-E-A-L. It's a little Mickey Mouse idea about this big, as big as a cockroach. Okay? Okay, the other thing I'm going to talk about is the news. The news was once on printer's ink. For a century, 2 centuries, it was printer's ink. It was just black and white smudges, printer's ink, and it get all over your hands if you worked in the place. And you get lead poisoning from operating the linotype, The linotype is like a Frankenstein typewriter. It's about as big as it's as big as a refrigerator. In these days, we have a newsman who comes to fame is like a skyrocket overnight. And he's a legend. And this is a product of the news journalist community that beat the shit out of Joe McCarthy. Okay? Joe McCarthy was dismantled by the news. Now we would like to, I don't know what, massage his ass, huh? Oh, the hegemon would like to. Anyway, this is Jimmy Breslin. Jimmy Breslin became famous overnight. He's a little Italian-Irish man who he grew up with the Rackets. His father was a musician who left when he was 9 years old or something like this. And he had a very good friend who was very smart. And between the two of them, Jimmy Breslin became a columnist. And he wrote about little things. Now, Jimmy Breslin, his first copy, one of his first articles when he's trying to write his neighborhood, he writes about New York neighborhoods, the stuff going on. And the managing editor of the New Yorker Post, he takes Jimmy Breslin's story and he puts it on page 25. And Jimmy got incensed, and he's from the mob, he's a mob child, the streets of New York. He goes up to this very famous Paul Sand. Do you know Paul Sand? Yeah. He says to him, you put my story on page 28 and I'll have your legs broken. And he walked away. But that's how Jimmy Breslin came to fame. I know. In his later days, he had to write books about the mafia. If you got read an article about him, he's writing about the mafia. Why? He's saying, I got to kiss the mafia boss, so I got to practice the kiss. Why? He's doing that because he's being gaslighted by the feds. He's telling the federal assholes, you come after me, and the mafia will eat you. You come after me quasi-legal. Quasi-legal, like illegal, like criminal. Yeah, so he had to do that. You see, the Daily News sent Jimmy Breslin to cover Columbine.